As the world mourns the 49 victims of the Orlando nightclub massacre, investigators are working to piece together a picture of the man responsible for the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. Good evening, I'm Brittany Pieper.
And I'm Jim Rick. Thanks for joining us. The FBI says Omar Martin supported a number of often conflicting Islamic organizations. Not only had he pledged loyalty to ISIS, but he also called the Tsarnaev brothers, the men who carried out the Boston Marathon bombings, his homeboys. The FBI says Martin also expressed support for both al-Qaeda and its enemy, Hezbollah. CNN senior investigative correspondent Drew Griffin has been uncovering more details about the gunman.
In 2007, the shooter here in the back row wearing a baseball cap was attending the Indian River State College Law Enforcement Training Academy when something went wrong. A former administrator says the suspect was removed from the course, and fellow students tell CNN they were told he was expelled. At the same time, CNN has learned the shooter was fired from his job at the Florida State Department of Corrections. What took place that would cause the suspect to be expelled from school and fired from his job? School officials refused to say, referring CNN to the FBI.
One thing we do know, before he left this school, the shooter learned how to shoot, spending a month in both the classroom and out on the range.
Instead of becoming a police officer, the Orlando shooter got a security guard license which allowed him to carry a weapon. He worked security at various private and public buildings, including the St. Lucie County Courthouse, where the FBI confirmed in 2013 he suddenly became a target of a Homeland Security investigation.
He made some statements that were inflammatory and contradictory that concerned his co-workers about terrorism. He said he hoped that law enforcement would raid his apartment and assault his wife and child so that he could martyr himself. After 10 months of investigation, we closed the preliminary investigation.
That was CNN's Drew Griffin reporting. FBI Director James Comey says he suspects the shooter was radicalized partly through online information. The killer's father says he doesn't think his son was radicalized or that religion or Islam had anything to do with the shooting.
Right now, Mid-Missourians are gathering at a candlelight vigil to remember and honor those killed in Orlando. KOMU 8's Lauren Barnes is live at the vigil with our own community's reaction.
I've seen a mix of emotions out here next to the Boone County Courthouse tonight. Grief for those who died in the shooting, hope for the future. The vigil ended about 15 minutes ago, but many Mid-Missourians are still here. Organizers say the goal is not only to recognize lost lives in Orlando, but also to honor those in Mid-Missouri affected by the tragedy. The names of those who died in the shooting this weekend were read out loud. Several LGBTQ groups, many MU organizations, and churches gathered to show their support. But some say despite a growing acceptance of the LGBTQ community, there is still room for progress.
I just recently started coming out about being transgender, so it was very scary about that because I already hear about a lot of violence against trans people.
There's still a reason to be fearful just by trying to be your authentic self. This is an example of that. People were wanting to be celebratory. They were wanting to celebrate who they were in a place that they feel safe, and they still face violence.
More than 500 people RSVP'd to tonight's event on Facebook. At least that many showed up. The amphitheater was completely full. People were overflowing onto the sidewalk on Walnut Street. Reporting live in Columbia, Lauren Barnes, KOMU 8 News.
We're learning more and more how the events unfolded during the attack. CNN's Tom Foreman takes a look at how the gunman got into the nightclub and the timeline of events.
We know that his car was parked somewhere over here. You mentioned those fences. There's a fence that runs all the way around here, the main entrance over here. So did he go around and come in? We don't have that clear yet, but we know that once he went inside the club that we believe the situation quickly started developing in the main room. This club is essentially three different areas: dance floor and bar over here, dance floor, main stage in here, and then a patio bar over here. The shooting seems to have started in this area, and then, according to authorities, at some point he tried to come back outside, and there was a gun battle that broke out between an officer who was on the scene, who was working security there, and two others who showed up, and he went back into the club. And then all indications are that he basically got pushed by the pressure of the officers up this way. So by 2:17 or so, We know that people were already pushed up into this area with him, and we know that he seems to have hunkered down somewhere in one of these bathrooms up in this area and this little dressing room here. A lot of people had fled trying to get out these ways, but we know somewhere up in here seems to be where he was. It looks like it was probably this bathroom, because we know then, after that long standoff, those phone calls you talked about, maybe even some communication with officers inside the building at that time, according to police, they finally hit this outside wall here. When we talk about them attacking from the outside, there were 2 explosives set off, and then they hit that outside wall. That's what this is, where they hit the wall with this Bearcat device, which is a large armored personnel carrier, smashing holes in the wall. And that's why it looks like it was the center bathroom. And if you look over here, you can see all the bullet holes in this wall, particularly around this big hole, suggesting this is where he tried to come out of the wall and was finally shot down by the police 3 hours into it. So that gives you a little lay of the land.
A Columbia nightclub owner said the Orlando nightclub Pulse is part of his family. KOMU 8's Abby Breidenbach is here to tell us how the Columbia Club plans to protect its family here in mid-Missouri.
I spoke with one member of the LGBTQ community who said she's afraid to be in public after Sunday morning's events. She regularly visits Yang Yang Nightclub, a gay club in Columbia. The owners there assured her she has nothing to worry about and that this club and other gay clubs are meant to be a safe space. Everyone is welcome and encouraged to be themselves, and Yang Yang wants it to stay that way.
We have decided to increase the amount of security that we have, as well as staff, and we have been in touch with the police department.
Yang Yang will hold a benefit drag show on Saturday night, with the proceeds going to the families of the victims in Orlando.
A Mid-Missouri group says our state has weak gun control laws, and the recent events in Orlando have Missourians questioning safety. According to Columbia's Moms Demand Action Against Gun Sense, it's too easy to get a gun here. To purchase a gun, you must show legal identification and pass an FBI background check. But today, one of our reporters witnessed a man purchase an assault rifle similar to the one used in Orlando. The process took 40 minutes. Kristen Bowen believes the system is broken and needs to be fixed.
If this shooter had been on the terror watch list, he would not have been able to board an airplane, but he still would have legally been allowed to purchase firearms in Florida. And, you know, that's the federal loophole that we were talking about. And that's just shocking. It's not okay.
I mean, you could take a hunting rifle and do just as much damage as you can with an AR-15. It's all about the person that's behind it and how they choose to operate it.
Odell says he can't prevent the sale of firearms to those who pass the necessary background checks. And while he thinks what happened in Florida is a tragedy, he says he thinks the right to own a gun is important for both the sporting and protection. We're working on our next Town Square show, a project where you drive the discussion. This time we're focusing in on gun control. We want to know your thoughts. You can take our survey online at KOMU.com.
Another hot one today, and it looks like the heat will continue, so let's send it over to Kenton to look at what's in store.
Brittany, thank you very much. Certainly a hot day today. We start all the full forecast, including more chances for rain and how warm we'll get, coming up after the break.
People who live near the Fukushima nuclear power plant are one step closer to getting their lives back.
Welcome back to KOMU 8 News at 9 o'clock.
Summer doesn't officially begin for 1 week.
Yeah, not yet.
I know. It's hard to believe, right?
It is. Kenton, thanks.
You're welcome.
Drinking water in Columbia will taste a little different starting this Wednesday. The city is changing its disinfecting method. It does it during the summer each year. The water will have a stronger chlorine taste and smell. Columbia started to make the switch each summer 6 years ago. Some people might be a little more sensitive to the taste than others, but there are a few things you can do to get rid of the taste.
And we suggest you can either aerate it, meaning you can pour some water into a pitcher and let the air get to it and it will take some of that taste and smell away, or you can use an activated carbon filter.
Kaprowitz says it's important to replace your filter as required, otherwise bacteria will start to grow. The city will switch back to the previous disinfecting method in the fall.
Construction crews in Hungary dug up something interesting today.
But it was not your average buried treasure. That's after the break.
Kurdish militants are claiming responsibility for a car bomb that injured 9 people in eastern Turkey today. Security forces said 3 of those wounded were in critical condition and most of them were civilians. Turkey has seen a series of attacks in recent months, including last week when a car bomb ripped through a police bus. Japan's government has lifted an evacuation order for a village near the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. About 90% of the residents can now return home. The village post office opened for the first time in more than 5 years. But shops and clinics remain closed. Neighbors are expected to rely on home delivery and taxis for the time being.
2 office buildings and a university in Budapest evacuated and closed down after construction crews found a World War II bomb today. Authorities closed down a nearby bridge and public transport was redirected to alternate routes. This all comes just 10 days after another bomb weighing about 550 pounds was found at the same construction site. And officials in Jordan today said satellite images of the ancient city of Petra have led to a new discovery, a massive man-made stone platform hidden under the sand. The platform is about the size of 6 professional basketball courts. According to experts, it might have been used for ceremonial purposes because on one side it had columns and a huge staircase.
The NBA Finals might come to a close tonight.
Good. The Warriors are going for a 2nd straight title over the Cavaliers. Sports is next.
Now from the Ford Sports Desk, KOMU 8 Sports.
Good evening, the Kansas City Royals. And that's it for sports.
Welcome back to KOMU 8 News at 9. You're not seeing much on live Doppler radar because we will cool down just a bit. Cool down. Can you say cool down if it's still 90?
Cool down. It's hot.
Better
it's
than
all relative.
On air, online, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the News app, and the Weather app. KOMU 8 News. Coverage you can count on.